and welcome to an Everyday Canines video. This episode in the Training Weave series, we're looking how we progress from 6 weaves to 12 weaves. So hopefully at this stage you've got your 6 weaves looking really good. You're hopefully not having to use too much body language to get the dogs through. You're not having to push them through by being with them. They're picking them up independently. You've hopefully worked a few angles like we demonstrated in other videos. And you're hopefully seeing this, the dog is understanding what weaving is. You may or may not have added a word in yet. It is optional if you do it now when you've got 6 or when you move on to 12. You can still do this part just with shaping the weaves. So if you have added a word, that's fine. If you haven't, that's also fine. I usually wait till we're getting the full set before I add the word, but it is obviously optional. So there are a few ways we can go about getting the dog from 6 to 12. And I would argue this is the hardest stage, because now it's not so much about the dog knowing how to weave, it's about the dog having the endurance and stamina to do 12 weave poles, because weaving is hard. 6 is quite straightforward. They know there's a finish coming up quite quick, but when they've got the extra 6 on there, so they've got a full set of 12, now it takes extra work. Now I've got to really push through, and that's when we can start seeing problems coming up. So how do we go about moving on to 12? So there's a few ways to do this, and it all depends on the dog. So I have no set way I do this for each dog. It depends on, I try one method. If that's not working for that dog, I will try a different method. It all depends. So this setup I've got here, this worked for Swift and Sparrow. It didn't work for Magpie. So I did, the version I did with Magpie was where I kept going with our 2x2 method all the way to full 12. So I had 6, then I put another pair here. So this works fine if you've got stick in the ground, or like me, your complete set of weaves can break into 2x2s. I had a set there and I did 8, got that, then I did 10, then I did 12. That's how I did it with her. I won't demonstrate that because we've already been through that method. It is just an extension of the same method. The way I am going to demonstrate to you is this, where you have 2 sets of 6. And of course this all does become dependent on how your weaves split up. And I know not everybody's got weaves that split like mine. Though in this instance, it's really handy if you've got your stick in the ground. And quite frankly, if you've got a set of weaves that don't split very easily into, some weaves, they only split into 3, they split into 3, 4 and 5 or something like that, which is really random. If you've got a set of weaves like that, then what you really want probably to do this is, I would suggest you go buy yourself a cheap set of stick in the ground weaves. They are not dear, you get them off Amazon. And honestly, when you're doing something like this, they work really well. I did, until I got Magpie, I did all my dogs in stick on the ground weaves because that was all I had. And it wasn't until I found this set, which every single one splits into 2, and I think they're brilliant. And they also are channel weaves. It's only when I got these sets that I could then do this with a set like this. And in fact, I even made myself a set of weaves to do it out of pipe. I will put a link in the description where I got these from, because I do recommend them. They're really good for training weaves if you're doing this sort of method. Okay, so how are we going to get our dog from 6 to 12? As I said, this is one method, and this often works really well. We've got our original set of 6 set up here. Then I've got a gap, and I'm putting the second set of 6 in. The idea is dog does set 1, reward, dog does set 2, reward. So we're getting the idea of doing 2 sets of 6 which make 12. What the hope is as the dog gets more confident, experienced, because it sees the reward coming, it's going to start pushing on to do the second set as well. So we're going to start at this. I would say that between the 2 sets, it's a good couple of meters I've got, just over a couple of meters. Basically, I've got a nice enough gap that I can actually stop the dog, reward. Eventually I won't be doing that because I want the dog to carry on, but we'll go with this. Now, I've got my reward in the hand, and it's going to be a handheld reward, dropped. I'm not using the treat and train for this. Okay, you ready? Weave it. Good girl. So she bounced through those ones fine. Let's see if we do the next set. Now, this is the first method you can do, where you do that set of 6 first, then this. If your dog has trouble getting the second set, you can work backwards. So you can do this set of 6, then start doing that set of 6 and this set of 6. It's just depending on the way the dog's brain works, okay? Oops, you picked the wrong side. Come here. Good girl. So, 2 sets of 6. Now this exercise progresses pretty quick. Usually, if your dog knows what they're doing. As I said, we did have slight complications here with Magpie, but if your dog gets the hang of this, this should progress really quick. So I'm going to close the gap up. So this exercise progresses really quickly. Usually once if the dog knows what it's doing, sit, and gets the hang of this. So I've closed up the gap. Now it's probably just over 1 metre. And I'm going to still reward in the middle, but I'm going to try and, oh, I got a reward in there. Going to try and move on a bit quicker. Ready? Good girl. Good girl. Not going to take too much time in the middle. Get her straight into that second set. So we're getting that continuation. So we're going to do that again. Try to get the reward in pretty quick. Okay. Good girl. Straight in to the second set. Good girl. Good girl. Okay, so we've moved now the weaves, so there's only 2 gap widths between the 2 sets. So this first one I'm going to reward. The second one I'm hoping she's going to carry on if I don't reward. We shall see. So you see she's very close to carrying on. Okay. Oops. Come here. Good girl. The reason for that confusion is a little foot sticking out of my weaves. That makes her think she's got to jump it. And of course it is starting to look like a closed set now, and she's done closed sets. So this time I'm going to see if she's going to carry on. Good girl. That's what I wanted. Yes, she looked to see if she's getting a reward. When she didn't, she went through the second set. Now, as I said, the first time I did this with Magpie, it didn't seem to click. Now, whether that was because she just wasn't quite there with her weaves and I need to do more, I don't know. It just didn't click. But this time it clearly is, because we've got a bit more experience. So the next stage is a closed set. Okay, so now we have a full set of 12. Let's see what happens. Yes, good girl. That was nice. She drove ahead. She was concentrating what to do. Good girl. Now, there is no reason why you cannot go back and do a set of 6 and then another set of 6 to help reinforce the behaviour, because you're going to see sets of 6 anyway, so it doesn't hurt. Good girl. If you do that and you think my dog didn't really get it, let's go back. So you could start a session, 2 sets of 6, split apart, reward a couple of times, then you put them together to reinforce that behaviour. Remember, weaving, especially a full set of 12, it's hard work on the dog. It's one of them things that are the hardest things to teach. So honestly, take your time on this, go back where you need to. Once your dog is doing these, as she just demonstrated, then you can add a cue in. If you already have one on the 6, that's fine. But now would be my time to be saying my word, weavers, and we're now at the stage, and hopefully your dog is also doing a full set of 12. As I say, if this causes a challenge, you can always do it as 2x2s again. That might work for you better. I hope you have enjoyed this Everyday Canines video, and if you have, you might subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and now TikTok. And I hope to see you all again very, very soon.